Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, everybody. Welcome and good morning. My name is Nick Reed. It's Wednesday, a couple days away from a brand new location for happy hour. We're going to be at Vineyard Market in Ozark. Yesterday, we had Luke Davis on. Many of you, of course, are familiar with him as a former host of a show here for years, and he and his wife opened several years ago this incredible restaurant slash cigar lounge slash bar slash place focused on wine with walk-in humidor. It's a really great location. It's become massively popular just really by word of mouth. And we're going to team up with them to have our happy hours there. And the first one is going to be this Friday from 4 to 6. Now, there is some bridge construction that, depending on from where you are coming, if you are going to hang out with us Friday there, that might require you to take an alternate route. But we've got information on the location itself at ksgf.com in the happy hour section there. Essentially, if you know the Lambert's exit, it's that same exit, except instead of being on the south side of the bridge, if you will, or that intersection, it is on the north side. Again, many of you know where it is, of course. But if not, love for you to join us either which way. And you great escapers, it'll be a last chance for us to get together before we meet in St. Louis just the following evening. And then off to Mexico we go. Next week you'll be hearing. Monday will be best of. And then the rest of the week you'll hear us live from the beautiful beaches of Cancun in Mexico on the 2025 Great Escape. So that's where, can you believe, a week from now, that's where we're going to be doing the show.
Very excited. Yeah.
This is what we'll be doing. Well, color me shocked. Springfield voters strike down the lodging tax for the convention center. What? I mean, this is just, Al, admittedly, because Springfield seems to pass any and every tax increase that's put in front of it. Perhaps I was a little lazy in my evaluation. I just sort of wrote it off like, well, it's a tax increase, and the powers that be want it, and so, yep, it's going to pass. But, in fact, it did not pass. Now, there were just over, let's see, not quite 11,000 people that voted in all of Springfield for this. So a very small portion, which one would think, conventional wisdom, and I would fall right into this category, that would help it pass. Because generally when you have an issue on the ballot that most people aren't aware of, they don't even really realize there's an election going on because there aren't candidates. They don't see these different ads that are running. Every single ad is somebody wanting your vote, and I don't know that there was a huge push. I'm not a traditional television watcher. But I don't know that there was a real big marketing push in support of it. But you think of something like that. Anytime there's a push for a tax increase, there's a built-in base of people who are going to view it as something they directly benefit from. And so given that the population at large isn't necessarily paying attention, or they just don't know because it's not out there, it's not prevalent, you have a built-in base to get things passed. And that, again, it generally works for the big government tax and spend folks. That clearly was not the case here. Now, maybe what you had is all these people in the industry, including a lot of Airbnb folks. A lot of people that, this may be what happened, that there were more people that were going to be negatively impacted by this than the city counted on that would get out and be active. And if you've got an Airbnb and you're like, this is just an additional burden that the city of Springfield is looking to put upon us, and so, I'm going to get out and vote. Well, and my husband and wife, they're going to. We got kids. We have, friends, other people, that, we socialize with, and so we've told them, and they're going to get out to vote, not to mention people who work in hotels. There could very well have been a lot of conversations going on about the negative impacts that they felt it was going to have, and encouraging folks within that industry to go out and vote. Like I said, I admittedly did not really spend a tremendous amount of time dissecting the likelihood that this was going to pass, because generally these things, Springfield says, yep, we need more of your money. And they had on their side the marketing tactic of essentially, well, you don't have to pay for this anyway. This isn't even you. This is going to be people from outsiders that are paying this, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, of course, in terms of impact, that isn't realistic, because you're talking about the impact on the industry overall, because that is an increase in fees that your different lodging folks are going to have to pass along. They're forced to increase their prices or figure out a way to absorb those costs. So it does have a local impact, but that's a very successful tactic oftentimes when it comes to taxes of this sort, to say, well, it's not even on you. Don't worry. We're going to get other people to pay it. The only thing that it was really missing is the temporary tax aspect, which wasn't at play here, but that generally is something that is a benefit to those who want to raise taxes. And, that wasn't at play here, but, I just I wasn't even thinking about whether this was going to pass or not. So, lesson to me to not just dismiss something in terms of taking a closer look simply because, well, here we go again. This is the way it always goes. Clearly something just a little different at play. And, I do think in reality there probably were some people that looked at it, maybe weren't impacted directly in terms of working in the industry, and saw this as not goods and services to the average person that is a citizen. It isn't an issue of schools. It isn't an issue of fire. It isn't an issue of law enforcement. Those are always really easy passes, because people feel, as citizens, the people who are voting on it feel directly impacted by it. The double-edged sword of this, apparently, perhaps, is, again, on one hand, you're selling it as, hey, you don't have to pay this tax because outsiders are going to be paying it. Well, the other edge of that sword for people who are voting for it may also think, yeah, but we also aren't really going to use that convention center. That's a big, shiny, big new thing for people that aren't from here. Now, there are benefits that supporters can definitely lay out to the city of Springfield. It brings people in, and that's going to help local restaurants, and it's going to help local attractions. So there definitely is that sort of trickle-down effect. But if you're just looking at it from a simplistic perspective, I think it's fair to say some people may have thought, well, what does a convention center matter to me? Why should I pay for something that, quote, outsiders are going to be using? Or why should I vote to increase? I guess local citizens, again, wouldn't be paying it in their minds. But why should we put an additional financial burden on hotels and Airbnbs and so forth in the area for some new facility that I'm probably going to end up paying for in terms of upkeep down the road, and I'm not even really going to ever use it anyhow? Huh? Now what? Now here's what I'm very interested to see. What is the next step going to be? Is the city going to take another crack at it? Are they going to try some different approach? Are they going to maybe just go at it again, but really step up the marketing on it and do a public relations push, or will they seek funding elsewhere? It's going to be an interesting thing to see, because I suspect that they're not going to just say, well, I guess no new convention center. But we'll see. Time will tell. Now, we'll talk about some of these other races. Maybe I've got a skewed perspective here, and some may argue that I guess, I'm in denial. But all of this, like, oh my gosh, the Democrats are back. Let me tell you how I view this. With the Democrats winning New York City and Virginia and New Jersey, states, by the way, that all voted for Kamala Harris in the presidential election. I mean, this is just crazy to me. This would be like in the middle of Obama's second term. And there are gubernatorial races and lieutenant gubernatorial races and these different statewide races in Florida and Texas, and because Republicans won, going, oh boy, this is a sign about things to come for Obama. I'd be like, no, these are deep red states that did not support Obama to begin with, so I don't know that we can really look at this as some sort of taste of things to come. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't things that can be learned, because I happen to believe this says more about where the Democrats are than the Republicans right now, and we'll talk about that coming up as well. But it just cracks me up to see the deepest red state, and then, in California, Gavin Newsom, he got his. You're talking about the three most left-wing states outside. I mean, you could throw Illinois in there, but New Jersey, New York, California, they voted blue. Well, do they ever not? I mean, Virginia had that one-off several years ago, and there were a number of reasons that occurred that were anomalous in terms of regular cycles and so forth. Even that, Youngkin was not a huge Trump supporter. Youngkin, who won as a Republican with that huge upset against Terry McAuliffe years ago in Virginia, Trump did not even endorse him until like towards the end. They weren't big supporters of each other. Youngkin had Mike Pence in the state campaigning for him, not Donald Trump. So Virginia having a massive population of federal workers there, it just, to me, of all of the states in which Democrats could win, that if you were to pick the states that had the least amount of meaning whatsoever politically, it would be these states. But clearly I'm on the outside viewing this thing differently than everyone else. All right, gone long. Got to get news.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 70. Tonight clear with a low around 45. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 68. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 70.
There was a component, we were talking off air, to this convention center tax request that oftentimes does work in favor of those wanting the tax increase, and that is the promise of, quote, free money. Now, taxpayers don't necessarily see it that way, but municipalities do. And one of the things I think it was Parson did on his way out, but it could have been Kehoe, writing up, I think, what is it, $30 million that if Springfield decided to do this or build a convention center, then I think 30 million state taxpayer, which, again, it's taxpayer dollars. And so oftentimes that is seen as, oh, well, look, this is free money on the table. Taxpayers oftentimes, again, they don't view it that way, but municipalities do. And I think it's that missing translation there that oftentimes perhaps makes the sellers of that pitch think that it's going to be more effective than it actually is. Now, in the news leader, the city manager, David Cameron, said that there was, quote, no plan B per se at all about how to move forward without the lodging tax increase, while Mayor Schrag was unsure why voters didn't back the taxes as anticipated, and that doesn't really surprise me. I think that it says something about whether or not an elected official is in tune with what's actually going on in the community. In this same news leader piece, the city manager, David Cameron, noted that he had heard skepticism about the success of a convention center and acknowledged that the uncertainty and climate of national politics could have played a role. I disagree with that. I think people are just tired of being taxed all the time. It is the government's go-to for absolutely everything. We need more of your money. 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 When was the last time people in Springfield were told, hey, you know what? Not only do we have enough of your money, but we've been so fiscally responsible and so innovative in terms of how it is that we are running things that we don't need so much. So we're going to move to cut your taxes in one capacity or another. Has that ever happened? I mean, these people, it's just one handful after another of cash out of your pocket. And the inability of a person, Schrag, who, is a former, I don't know if he still has any, business ownership, but, he started Mothers. Like, you don't get this? Now, he is a leftist, so that doesn't necessarily surprise me that he's out of tune with what resonates and what's important to the average person, because leftists increasingly isolate themselves from the rest of the world and have no interest in understanding what other people's perspectives are. But it's just, it's a fascinating thing to me, and you see the difference here, for better or worse, between the city manager who's like, yeah, I was hearing some skepticism on this, and the mayor's like, I have no clue. This is a surprise to me. Oh, what's going on here? You may want to really explore how in tune you are with the people of Springfield if this was totally out of left field for you. Now, like I said, I assumed that this would pass as well. But I'm also not the mayor of the city that every single day is dealing with this stuff and talking with people and responsible for trying to pitch this thing. I would think that someone in that position, and your whole job is to be mayor of the city, to have an idea of what people are thinking within the city. That's kind of part of the job, and to, I guess, give him something for acknowledging that he completely was lost on this one and has no clue why the people he represents feel the way they do and voted the way they did. And maybe it will be a wake-up call for the mayor to go, okay, fortunately, upside very early in my term. Downside is I have no clue what's going on with the people I represent. I have no recognition or understanding of their mindset on these things about taxing and spending. You'd think as he campaigned, he might have picked up some of this stuff. Apparently, he did not. So this is an opportunity. Well, you can one of two ways. Some people will just say, oh, well, we have to do a better job of making people understand how they need this. Now, that's usually the liberal approach. Our failure was to inform the ignorant. Our failure was to make people understand why they needed to spend more of the tax dollars. And I say their tax dollars because it's, these lodges, these are people here in the city, and particularly with Airbnbs, these are citizens. Yes, not every citizen is going to be paying it, but they still are citizens. It's still a tax on here, hence the reason that the people in Springfield had to approve it. And you can, again, go one of two ways, what is traditionally the elitist way, and that is it's our fault for not doing a better job of explaining to people why they should want what we want, or, wow, I'm clearly out of sync with the people I'm supposed to represent. I need to figure out how to do a better job of not just understanding, but representing the people that I am supposed to be representing. Well, we'll see which direction the mayor goes on that. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Coming up on Friday, a couple days away, we're going to have our debut happy hour at Vineyard Markets. Incredible place. It's been one of my favorites for some time. And, I've mentioned a few times because I know so many of you know Luke Davis, who used to have a show here. And, of course, Davis Cellulars were all over before they sold those. And he and his awesome wife, Heather, several years ago, opened this place as a venture. He was here yesterday with us talking a little bit about the inception and the evolution of it. And it's just such a great place, especially if you like to smoke pipes or cigars because of their extremely high-tech lounge area that every 9 minutes completely sucks out, filters, and pumps in new fresh air. So you can go in if you want and enjoy a pipe, a cigar, which they have a huge walk-in humidor, and walk out not smelling like you've been in some sort of place that people are smoking pipes and cigars, which I know for a lot of folks they don't necessarily care for. And it's just one of the many added different benefits that, as he noted, there's really nothing like it in the area. It's very rare, the setup that they have, particularly with the technology they utilize. So we're going to have our happy hour there this Friday, 4 to 6. It's in Ozark, and we've got location details and more at ksgf.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozark's first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 70. Tonight clear with a low around 45. For your Thursday, we'll see sunny skies with a high near 68. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 70.
Okay, so it's going to be, I guess, interesting, maybe perhaps, to evaluate the coverage of the elections that took place yesterday. And primarily we're talking about New Jersey, New York, Virginia, the redistricting in California. Now, there were 3 liberal judges up for re-election in Pennsylvania on their Supreme Court that all won. Their seats, people tend to not really know much about judges, and so they tend to just confirm them. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about the landscape, what's going on there, in terms of how the campaigning went. I don't know. But what I'm more interested, because this is what's going to be talked about today, specifically when it comes to the election of candidates, is New Jersey, Virginia, and New York. And the media is definitely, I believe, going to be like, oh, this is good news for Democrats. What other outcome was conceivably possible? I mean, really, this is New Jersey, Virginia, and New York. Let's understand the context here. This is supposed to be a reflection of Trump, right? These aren't states that voted for Trump. These are states that Kamala Harris won. Arguably the worst Democrat candidate for president in many of our lifetimes. A candidate who lost every swing state. So, if, let's just say, for example, the mood of the country regarding Trump was exactly the same as it was on Election Day when he won a historic landslide. The Democrats still would have won in New York, New Jersey, and Virginia. So, in other words, what they're wanting to do is present this as, okay, Trump got elected, but what has happened since then? How has the mood changed since then? Well, if you're looking at the way that the people in each of those states voted, it didn't change. It stayed the same. Now, that doesn't mean that Republicans are going to sweep the midterms or that Trump's going to get everything that he wants. I don't think you can utilize this as a gauge at all. Not for what the country is feeling overall, not what swing states are feeling, not what voted. I mean, you look at polling, and polling is polling, I understand that. But in terms of popularity at this point during a second term, Trump is doing better than Obama was. Now, of course, Obama, again, he didn't necessarily serve Democrats well in terms of his coattails. And there's so many different layers of this that can be evaluated. But this approach that somehow this is signaling, trouble for Trump, when the states essentially voted the same way that they voted when Trump beat Kamala Harris, that really doesn't tell us anything at all. So, they can look at it however they want, evaluate it however they want in terms of the tone of the country. But I'm telling you, in the elections themselves, a Democrat getting elected governor in Virginia and a socialist Democrat mayor of New York City and a Democrat governor in New Jersey, that is meaningless when it comes to what the country feels about Donald Trump. Meaningless. It's also meaningless in terms of the midterms. I'll tell you where it does have meaning is where the Democrat Party is today. What direction is the Democrat Party going? We know that part of the loss of the Democrats is the fact that average people in what I would call normal states felt that the Democrats prioritized things that were not important to average people. They felt that their priorities were out of whack, that they were focused too much on transgenderism and these things that just were irrelevant to them. Well, who is it that the Democrats elected as the next governor of Virginia? Abigail Spanberger, a woman who is all in with forcing girls to take showers with boys who identify as girls, who has been all in forcing girls to compete against boys and to use bathrooms with boys and locker rooms. And, so this is, to me, the Democrats are the ones that should be very concerned about whom it is that their party faithful is supporting. And their party faithful might continue to double down in what are historically very blue states that aren't expected to be states that Republicans win. But how does that affect Michigan? How does that affect Wisconsin? How does that affect Pennsylvania? When the voters who rejected Democrats because they felt that the Democrat Party was perhaps getting a little too off track, and they see that Democrats vote for a governor in Virginia that's a privileged white woman that since she first got elected to Congress made $7 million somehow that she can't explain, and has a priority of making sure that boys get to do whatever the hell they want regardless of safety of girls when it comes to privacy in sports? Do you think that makes those people who are already skeptical that Democrats' priorities were out of whack more likely to vote for Democrats? I don't think so. When you had people that, on average, even some moderate Democrats that felt the Democrat Party was becoming just a little too socialist and a little too anti-Semitic, and they vote for Ma'am Donnie, a foreign-born Muslim who has been embracing global jihad and who came out against the ceasefire and taking away weapons from Hamas as they were executing their own people, who has called for sending in poor, defenseless social workers when somebody calls 911 because they're being raped in their apartment instead of law enforcement, who wants to turn grocery stores into the style of grocery stores you see in Cuba or the fallen Soviet Union, where once a week they may get stocked and there are lines out the door wrapped around the corner and only a select few get rations. Now, but he won by 50+% of the vote in New York City, yeah. But do you think that the swing voter, the suburban mom in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin, or once again, all of those swing states, that makes them feel more comfortable with the Democrat Party? I would argue it does not. After the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the states in which people register by, in terms of voting, by way of party affiliation. We do not do that in Missouri, but many states you are registered as a Republican or Democrat or independent. And what those states saw was a massive spike in people changing their voter registration to Republican. And many of them, when they spoke out, said that they were detaching themselves from what they saw was the political party, the Democrat Party, that increasingly was becoming a party of violence and supporting violence. Now, what do you think those people think when they see that Virginia just voted for a Democrat attorney general who fantasized about murdering his political opposition, who fantasized about his political opposition children, young children, ages I think 5 and 8, dying a painful death? What do you think that those blue-collar workers, those purple voters, sometimes Democrat, Republican, but are increasingly concerned about the violence coming from the Democrat Party, think whenever the Democrats in Virginia just put in office the head law enforcement officer, the attorney general, who has said more police officers need to be murdered in order to scale back the police shootings that occur in the state. Obviously, he didn't say these things private or publicly. They were private conversations that would leak out. I don't happen to believe that these elections are a signal of, or any sort of a reflection of Donald Trump's performance thus far, but I think it says a lot about where it is that the Democrat Party is going. And these election results are the opposite direction of what every single intelligent, observant consultant organization has told the Democrats since the election. This is the opposite of that. It seems like every so many weeks, every so many months, there will be a report leaked about all the Democrats. They all got together and they paid this consulting firm to do, and and every one of them say the same thing. Yeah, people think you're out of touch and you're too weird and you're too extreme and you may be a little too violent. And this rhetoric needs to, and this focus on transgenders. You got to cut that out. Well, look at the people they just voted for. I know on the surface, like I said, this is going to be celebrated by Democrats, and of course they have to. And this is going to be a warning of Republicans, and I don't want to I don't want to mistakenly sound as if I'm saying that this means Republicans don't have any problems, and it's going to be easy. There's a whole level. There's a whole number of different levels of evaluation here in terms of what the upcoming midterms are going to look like. And that is a year away. So a lot can happen, of course. And a lot of it is going to be the economy. But this idea that what occurred with these elections is a snapshot that is bad news for Republicans and good news for Democrats, that's fantasy land. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you, Foreman Mechanical.
You're welcome.
Well, I appreciate it. Real nice guy over there you are.
This is true.
It is
This
true.
is accurate information.
That is right. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. We are enjoying some really beautiful weather this week, but don't let it fool you. A cold front is moving in next week, and
As it should, because we'll be in Cancun.
that's true. Actually, that's what I was thinking when I was looking up the
We're
weather.
in Cancun.
You should, yes.
I got $20 that shows every day rain.
Yes,
Which
yes.
people, those have never been on one of these trips. Like, I check the weather, it says raining every day. That's because it does for like 15 minutes.
That's true.
Every day. Now, that isn't to say
And then
that
the
there
sun opens up and
Yes,
it's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like Florida in that way, where it just rains for a bit every day. Now, there are some days, obviously where it may rain all day, but generally, it almost always shows rain the whole time, and then like the upper 80s. But I'm gonna look.
That is true. But yes, so we do have a cold front moving in next week. So that means that you're going to want to have that heat kick on without a problem. Now, starting on Sunday, I looked it up. The temps will be in the lower 40s, and that will last for a couple of days. Now, if you haven't done your fall preventative maintenance on your heating system, now is the time to do it. I always recommend Russell and his team over at Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. A quick tune-up now, it can save you from breakdowns, high utility bills, and just a whole lot of stress when it's cold outside. And the Foreman team, they are awesome to work with. They're upfront, they're honest, and they won't try to sell you things that you don't need. So don't wait until the cold hits. Reach out to Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air and get your fall maintenance scheduled this week. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Yeah, the weather says what it does every single time. 80s and
Yep.
all week long.
Yep.
And it's always beautiful. It's like the perfect, not like the miserable hot, but the sun is just enough to where it's great and you get in the water and it's going to be awesome.
I always like it when it rains like one day for, like maybe an hour or two.
Yeah.
I like it. I go back into the room.
I don't even mind when it rains like a whole day.
Yeah.
And just have your your or not your windows, but your sliding glass doors
your
open.
patio
And
doors.
you
Yes.
just hear the rain and get room service and lay in bed in the robe or fill
so
the
peaceful.
bathtub.
Can't wait. I'm very excited.
I'm excited too. A couple text messages here on the Pyramid Roofing Company text line. We, listening to KSGF, know these things about the newly elected awfuls, but the media never talks about all that stuff. Voters watching TV have no idea these officials believe these things. Traditional media hides the extremism of a lot of Democrats from a lot of voters. But this is where it does, and that is true. The media does try to hide it, and they hide it from themselves oftentimes. This is why they find themselves so shocked. They at times are their own worst enemies. This is why they genuinely believe Kamala Harris was going to win. There was no way Donald Trump was going to win, and they're just, we got to do an autopsy. It's the same thing that happened when Hillary Clinton ran against Donald Trump. I mean, they just couldn't believe it. And it's because they insulate themselves from these realities as well. But once campaign season comes about, when Republicans are wise, they point these things out and they get in campaign ads. And thank goodness again, Elon Musk and being responsible for the suppression of free speech. And you think about all of the things that people learned about Kamala Harris and the extreme positions she's taken and just the incoherent speaking that she would do at any given time and how that would have been suppressed at one point when, you before you had Elon Musk step in and put a stop to the nonsense of willfully bending under to the deep state and all of that stuff went away. And so as long as, and this is the benefit of freedom of speech and not having government come in and suppress it, people learn more. And they learn about these things, and they learn about the anti-Semitism within the Democrat Party. I mean, I don't know that there is a candidate that Democrats that is more openly anti-Semitic than Mamdani, and here the Democrats made him mayor of New York City. This is a guy that has been warm towards global jihad in a city that was hit by global jihad not that long ago. And so I think some of that stuff that they will, Democrats already know. They have some concerns. That's why you see Hakeem Jeffries. I played the audio yesterday. He's like, oh, no, that's not a representation of the Democrat Party. But this is where Democrats screw themselves. They won't be able to help but defend him. Now that he's in there, no matter how extreme he becomes, no matter how clearly anti-Semitic he becomes, no matter how absurd the things that he does or said, they will defend him because he is a Democrat. And the world will see that, as much as the media will try to hide it. And people will see the media try to sort of soft play it and downplay it and be like, well, you have to understand, people see that stuff. And it's part of the reason that at higher levels than ever, people have no trust in the media and no greater awareness than I would argue we have today in this country as to the dishonesty and deception of the media and the Democrat Party. And the truth is always beneficial to those who seek the truth. Springfield's talk. Now, that being said, I'm also not naive. And I know there are a lot of really dumb, stupid, ignorant people out there. And we see that oftentimes in election results. But there are a lot of us, too. We're talking about happy hour and the hindrance of construction on the bridge there by Vineyard Market, our new place for happy hour. But you just got a MoDOT press release?
I just got a MoDOT press release.
They must have been listening.
Yes, they did. 643. Eastbound Christian County Route CC Bridge over Highway 65 is now open. They opened it Tuesday night.
So last night.
Yeah, around 11:30.
Boom shakalaka.
It was meant to be.
That is what I have to say about that. A boom.
Everything's looking up.
Followed by a shaka and then another laka.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah, so that should hopefully be much easier for folks that join us. That'll be happy hour, our debut happy hour at Vineyard Market 4 to 6 this Friday to kick off the weekend. Would really love for you to come join us. We'll hit on some of your text messages, and we got a lot more, 2 more hours of just awesome sauce coming your way. And if you miss any of the first hour, of course, Spotify, iTunes, and the KSGF app. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed. Welcome to the show, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Ozarks elder law, 5 ways to pay for a nursing home stay. Now, what a lot of people do, unfortunately, is wait until it is time to make that move, whether it's for themselves or it is for a loved one, and they're like, oh, wait, how does it, there's just got to be some magical answer, right? Because we don't see elderly people that are laying out on the streets. Somehow it just gets taken care of. Well, that's not always the way it works. And the earlier you plan, the more options you have. One of them is if you're a veteran. This is something that we learned from Lori Rook last weekend. She was talking about Veterans Day parades and veterans and how it is those 5 ways can help you when it comes to paying for nursing homes. Now, the downside is the longer you wait, the less of those options that become available to where you get down to one or maybe none even. It also makes a big difference what state you're in. So those of you who are listening on, closer to the Arkansas border or closer to the Oklahoma border or Kansas border, you may be in a situation where the nursing home costs are going to be much higher in Missouri, but you just move right across the border. I know their Joplin office, I think she talked about having a client where just right across the border there, and it was covered because of the difference of one state to the next. So this is where you need the help of Ozarks Elder Law. These aren't things that you're just magically going to find out. Like you go to a nursing home when you're looking for one for your loved one, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, we've got all these options, and just pick one, and you'll be taken care of. That's not how it works. You got to get the help of Ozarks Elder Law. 10 area locations, consultations free. The information, contact info is at ozarkselderlaw.com. You can also find it under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. A couple of your text messages. Part of our problem is that many of our seniors no longer have cable and receive their news from local stations only or over the air, so it would be your ABC, NBC, CBS. Seniors also do not listen to podcasts or more popular forms of the media highway or information. These are responsible citizens who usually vote, but many of them are not even aware of the pivotal races in New York, Virginia, and New Jersey, as well as California. They still trust KY3. I will say this about KY3. I have been very, well, I don't know that I'd say surprised. It has been noticeable. Over the past, I'd say, year, the amount of feedback that we get from people specifically, none of the other local stations, but people that say, what has happened to KY3? What is going on over there? They are becoming it's so clear that they are pushing a left-wing position when it comes to the news stories. I don't watch KY. I mean, I read when it comes to seeing what's going on locally, I generally hit the websites, and I hit obviously ozarksfirst.com, and those are the folks over there that do the local news for us. Of course, Bailey Stroll and Mike Landis, and you got Angela. Well, it just varies. There's a rotation that takes place. So I obviously I check Ozarks First, but I always check KY3 as well. It's just been really interesting over I think I'd say, if I'm ballparking, I started noticing about a year and a half ago that people were beginning to say that. And, here, once again, it's mentioned in this particular text, which is why I bring it up. Just a couple of notations about these elections. And, yeah, there is truth to that. But here's the thing, and I don't mean to sound dark, but eventually we will get to the point where the seniors that you're talking about are the people who are currently listening to podcasts. And so as time marches on, that demographic will be more in tune with, because they've been accustomed to getting information from other outlets that are not part of that corporate elite structure. Now, will the landscape be as it is today once we get to that point? Who knows? It could obviously change in large degree. And you never know. I mean, given how much censorship and how impactful censorship was during the Biden years, if and when a Democrat does get back in charge, they never go backwards. They always go forward and take more control and oppress to a greater degree. How much censorship and how effective at censorship will the Democrats be next time they have control of the executive branch and have the ability to get the FBI to threaten these different institutions? Like Zuckerberg had talked about Facebook and Meta being on the receiving end of threats from the deep state, and others have as well. So a lot of that can certainly change. I do want to mention one other thing about Virginia. Because if you listen to the last hour, and I'm watching Democrats win pivotal races. These are not pivotal races. Every one of these states voted for Kamala Harris for the presidency. So in terms of, what does this say about Trump? It doesn't say anything about Trump, other than these states are pretty much the exact same place they were when Donald Trump won that historic win. Virginia in particular, now, some may point to, but Youngkin was a Republican. There are a couple of factors involved, and that was an anomaly for Virginia. There are a tremendous amount of federal employees that live in Virginia because of its proximity right up there against Washington, D.C. So you have, and not to mention federal facilities and just in Virginia itself. When Youngkin was running, you had Terry McAuliffe, the Democrat, running against him, who had been governor once upon a time before, so he was kind of old news. He wasn't like any overly exciting governor that the people of Virginia were clamoring to have back. There just really wasn't anyone else that was in the hopper, so they had to bring back someone that had already been governor once upon a time before, and he really potentially lost the election over debate remarks he made about how parents should not have a say in their children's education. And that was massive because this was around the period of time where COVID was really opening eyes of parents about how little they knew about what actually was going on in the schools. And they felt as if for the first time nationwide, they were getting a little bit of a peek as to what was going on. And then here's this guy who had already been governor once before, no longer was, and he came back and he's like, yeah, by the way, it's none of your business as parents. And I think that was really, really harmful. Youngkin would end up winning. Youngkin was not some massive Trump guy. Youngkin, as a Republican, wasn't running as MAGA. He had Mike Pence campaigning for him in Virginia, not Donald Trump. He wasn't running around as the MAGA candidate, and so all of that combined, he ended up becoming a Republican governor of Virginia. Well, you look at the fact now that you have all these federal workers that don't like Trump for a couple of reasons. Well, a few reasons. One, because he's just not a traditional elite government person that sees government as the end-all be-all, and everything that is government is absolutely necessary, and without it, we would all cease to exist. He has the opposite approach. You have and while a lot of us don't necessarily think about Doge any longer, or some even see it as something that fizzled out, these are individuals that went through a period of time in which they saw this real life demonstration that a lot of the jobs in their world of their, quote, community were eliminated, and people celebrated that. And that, you can understand how that can create sort of this us versus them mentality. And so that created an emotional hatred towards Trump, and now you have the shutdown occurring that affects maybe not all of these people, but, quote, their people. And while you and I know it is the Democrats who shut it down, these are inherently Democrat left-leaning people anyhow, and they never take responsibility for it. Everything is always Trump's fault. So the more angry they are, regardless of who's responsible for it, the more that it motivates them to stick it to Trump. And so it's just, again, none of this stuff in terms of the overall tone of the country is reflective. It just, the media is the media, and they're going to take it the way they want to take it. I will note that there was a conversation. I don't have the audio, but Jake Tapper on CNN, discussion with Dana Bash and Casey Hunt, exit polling data that showed 61% of federal government workers voted for Spanberger, the Democrat. And Jake Tapper, on air, admitted that Democrats were refusing to, vote to open the government during election night in America, but said he was amazed that Democrats managed to convince these people that Republicans were responsible for the shutdown when the Democrats were the ones who have shut it down, that Republicans have voted to open it over and over and over again, and Democrats voted to shut it down. And he said he was amazed that Democrats were able to convince voters of the lie. This is on CNN. He said they've convinced voters, Democratic voters and independent voters, that it's the Republicans' fault, and just on the numbers that might not be actually accurate in terms of who's voting to open the government and who isn't. And Dana Bash, she acknowledged begrudgingly, yes, that it is true, Democrats are responsible for it. But it doesn't surprise me. One, because of the way that media reports it, but two, because Democrats, they don't care. They are fueled by emotion. That is it. And if they are angry because they are furloughed, or angry because they're not getting paychecks, or angry because their fellow federal workers are being portrayed as perhaps not necessary, or they are temporarily not getting paychecks, it doesn't matter to them that it's their party that is keeping the government shut down, because they are emotionally driven. They hate Donald Trump, and so that hatred just refunnels to him. These are not rational people. We got a news update. I'm Nick Reed.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 70. Tonight clear with a low around 45. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 68. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 70.
Last night, my wife and I are sitting out on our patio, which is part of what is our outdoor living space with the smokeless fire pit, and which for me is it really functions as a footrest. And I had bought some time ago. I got it at Walmart. I think it's that own or on. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it was on sale because after the patio got built, my wife said, well, we need some music out here, and so I was like, I'll just go get a wireless speaker, and it's kind of like a party speaker. You can plug in like a guitar jack or a microphone. It's got, you can, if you want to do sort of quote karaoke, and it's got lights and everything and Bluetooth. It actually it's got great sound for, I think anyhow, for what we use it for. And anyway, we had it out last night listening to it, and that is working great for us. But one of the reason I'm mentioning this, if you don't necessarily want to, just grab the portable speaker and bring it in or outside, you want something that's a little more obscure, something that's hidden away. When it comes to Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, they can integrate incredible sound systems where you don't even necessarily see it if you want. They do the same thing with lighting. They do the same thing with water features. It's not just patios. They do so much, and they can get you the absolute highest end quality. This is what they are all about. It's why they're in such high demand. And so that all encompassing perfect scenario for your outdoor living, they can set up for you. HunterHardscapes.com is the site. You can also find them under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. Some of your text messages, let me pop over here to the prep page. This is where when you text in on the Pyramid Roofing Company text line, I can designate some of them to go over to the prep page. That way I have them all together. I mentioned someone had texted in and referenced KY3 becoming left wing, and I noted that I hear more and more of that from you all. Sometimes not specifically for that purpose, but mentioning something that you saw on KY3 and then referencing the fact, they've really seemed to become left-wing as of late. And I'd say probably for a year now, maybe a little past that, that feedback has been coming in. Non-solicited, by the way. This wasn't the sort of thing that was prompted by, how do you feel about the political leanings of local news? It's been completely unprompted information coming from you all. And so some of you had texted in. One, my 80-year-old dad is a MAGA Republican, but he watches KY3 News at least twice a day and has never listened to a podcast or downloaded a radio station app. I was at his house 2 weekends ago all day and listened to the biased news, and he didn't even notice or know the difference. It has to affect a lot of local voters. Somebody from the app texting in, I'm a senior, 65 years old. Doesn't, honestly, though, 65 seem not old? I mean, 100%. You watch. I watch the Golden Girls on Sunday, the reruns. Saturday mornings, I watch reruns of Roseanne, like the original. That's Saturday morning, and then Sunday morning, Golden Girls. It's just part of what I do. And the Golden Girls, like, their ages were in their 50s. Their characters' ages, and I'm like. And listen, not to compliment the woman, but Joy Behar, she celebrated her 83rd birthday. Now, as nasty as that woman is, she does not look, sound, or act like she's 83 years old at all, to me anyhow. I don't know what it is. It just over time, 65 is nothing. Now, I just thought I'd mention that. So, I'm a senior, 65 years old. Get my news from various online and radio sources, including KSGF. Thanks. I watch Channel 10 every night for the weather. They are very left-biased as well, like KY3. And, of course, 10 and Fox 49, that's Ozarks First collectively, and those are the ones who do our news here. Another regarding KY3, I don't know if these are related, but Ethan Forehead's left and Lisa Rose changed times. Then she retired after Maria Nider moved to the evening, she suddenly left. I wonder if Maria quit because of left shifting. Yeah, Yeah, I have no idea. I'm not in the loop or in tune with what goes on over there. I will say we had on a year plus ago, maybe even further back than that, Linda Simmons from KY3. And um, she was someone who left, and we had her on the show. She left because of the COVID mandates. And there was discussions about that left-leaning cultural shift that apparently had been taking place over there, and it obviously is having an impact on the news. And I say that because people are unpromptedly, consistently saying, "Gosh, have you noticed KY3? What has happened to KY3?" That's the phrase that probably more than any other phrase comes through. Quote, "What has happened to KY3?" And I it the person who texted in about his father watching KY3 all the time and not realizing that there is even bias there. People are a little more savvy now, but there's long been this. I don't know if belief is the term, but I don't think people looked at local news as biased one way or another because, hey, these are just local people that are doing the news. And a lot of times the news is local, and you don't think of local stuff in a political context so much, at least in terms of Republican, Democrat. That's more national and state news. But as people on the left become more to the left, and there's nothing that they don't believe they should create the narrative on, because they're government-minded people, and in their minds, government should be involved in everything. And so really, virtually any story, I'm sure that people on the left nowadays, whereas 20 years ago may not think that necessarily there was a belief to be pushed, probably on most stories now they do see it that way or believe it that way. And so I think that increasingly that may be why it is that more people are seeing that come through, or at least perceiving it that way. Now, they may argue that that's not true, but if you have people that suddenly over the past year and a half or so are starting to believe that something's going on. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 70. Tonight, clear with a low around 45. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 68. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 70.
I find it somewhat, I mean, it's humorous as an outside observer, but from a humanitarian standpoint, a little disturbing when the left turns on one another. And I just watching these people experience what it is that they've been dishing out to others. And there's an article in The Cut, Deborah Messing having a meltdown about Zoran Mamdani. Now, this was before the election, and she was a supporter of Cuomo, and she's Jewish. So of course the whole tone of this story, because she was like, "Hey, Democrats, we have to vote Cuomo. Mamdani, here are the things that he has said. This is what he believes." And I mean, the left, they went nuts on her. Well, of course, she's a Jew, so that's one big problem they have with her. But, spreading Islamophobia, spreading Islamophobia. Now, and accusing her of being a mouthpiece for Trump, because Trump endorsed Cuomo, hoping that, if it was going to be close enough, maybe some Republicans who weren't going to vote or were going to vote for Sliwa, that maybe they would vote for Cuomo. Wouldn't have made a difference either which way, because while it was just over 50%, he did get 50% of the vote, that being Mamdani. But point being is, because Deborah Messing, she has been one of the meanest, nastiest anti-Trump people out there. She has been the poster child for a good leftist. Everything that Republicans do is the end of the world. People are going to die. Trump is a Nazi. Trump is Hitler. But man, here it doesn't. This is part of the left. You can never be left enough, and you always must comply. And so here she was seen as not in compliance with the left wing of the Democrat Party, because that's the anti-Semitic pro-Mamdani wing. And so, I mean, it wasn't, agree to disagree, or, hey, we think you're wrong. It is, well, she's a Jew, and she's a mouthpiece for Donald Trump, and she's spreading Islamophobia. And so watching someone who has long spewed hatred towards those with whom she disagrees now being attacked by the very people that she associates herself with, these are moments that I wish I could get into someone's head and be like, I wonder what she's thinking. Is there self-reflection? Is there, wait a minute, this is how I've been behaving all this time? All of this meanness and nastiness and over-the-top rhetoric, the name-calling, the hurling, the worst insults possible one could possibly, hurl at another human being, and I'm the recipient of, this is what I've been doing. Oh my gosh, is this how it feels to be on the receiving end of it? But she is a leftist after all, so I suspect she doesn't have those moments of self-reflection. I wanted to play a clip of audio from Victor David Hansen. He was on with Laura Ingraham, and she had asked him about the issue of socialism and communism, and let's see, what was her exact question here? She said, she noted that it's contrary to human nature. People like initiative. They like pride in their property. No, wait, that's where he begins. I'm trying to see what the lead-in question here is. Anyway, I suppose it's irrelevant. Victor David Hansen, they're talking about Mamdani, they're talking about socialism and the promises of all these free things, and she was just asking him his thoughts on it. And the reason I wanted to play this for you is because I think within just a couple of minutes, he does an absolutely tremendous job of explaining what socialism actually does in terms of the results to the people and why it is that socialism becomes what it becomes, and how it always follows the same pattern.
We've been following the story of James Comey. He's indicted for lying.
All right, wrong audio. My apologies. Here we go.
Well, historically, socialists always come in after capitalists have made prosperity, and then they offer an improved prosperity. They never come in after Pol Pot or Mao or anybody else because they know it doesn't work. And it's contrary to human nature. People like initiative. They like pride in their property. Some people like to work a lot and get compensated, some less. It gives you that freedom of opportunity. And then the society at large benefits, Laura, from all these millions of agendas and ideas that improve if people are free to innovate and to take experiments and risk. But when the state monopolizes all of that, it's contrary to human nature, and then it has to be repressive. So all of these social experiments, even if they're democratic, they end up repressive. And at the worst form, it's no accident that the greatest mass murders in history were Mao and Stalin, 30 million, 60 million, and they were radical communists. And even people like Hitler, National Socialist Party. In our modern era, it took Margaret Thatcher a whole decade to undo the 40 years of socialism that had wrecked England after the war. And we saw it in Venezuela, we see it in Cuba, and the symptoms, Laura, are always the same. Talented people who can help the economy, who are successful, are demonized. They flee. People who want things for nothing come in. There's open borders. They destroy personal liberty, and they stamp out any dissent or criticism. And there's always an elite, the billionaire Castro brothers, Chavez and Maduro. They always are never subject to their consequences, their ideology. Here in California, we are becoming socialists.
Like I said, I wanted to play that because he does such a great job of, in less than 2 minutes, really completely covering the problems with socialism and the realities of it and the patterns that always follow. This isn't a difficult thing to figure out. It doesn't work. And here's why it works. And here's when it comes about, and this is what it results in. The recognition that socialism results in a very few elite wealthy people, virtually no middle class at all, and 99.9% of people lower class. So it widens the income gap massively, and it eliminates the possibility of anyone becoming wealthy because the only people who are allowed to be wealthy are those who have connections to the powerful. When Castro, as he noted, Castro and Hugo Chavez, when they came in, got to get rid of the rich, got to overthrow the evil capitalist. Did they destroy the mansions of the rich? No, they took them over and lived in them. They began living as the rich people off the backs of others. Wasn't wealth that they created. They weren't wealthy because they created opportunities for other people that had good-paying jobs that lifted themselves out of poverty. No, they just took it from others. The absolute lap of luxury. Kim Jong-un. Maduro. Anyone who presided over the Soviet Union while the average people live in squalor, starve to death, wait in bread lines, they live the lap of luxury. Look at Mamdani. It's the same scam. It is the same snake oil, and the same fools fall for it every single time. Mamdani is this privileged guy who has never had to actually do or create any sort of job or wealth in his life. He's privileged. He went down, his family's from Uganda. They live in a massive compound. They are so wealthy and elite. They have around their compound cell phone jammers. That way, the people who are invited into the elite's castle can't be texting things out. They have their own private security. It was for a wedding, I think. It was a family member or friend. I want to say it was this past summer, and Ma'am Donnie was there. They're like the wealthiest of the wealthy in all of Uganda. And they don't do anything that allows other people to achieve that same level of wealth. Because, see, wealth is horrible and bad, not for them. If you notice, the socialist and the communist who rail about the evils of money, they have tons of it themselves, as do their friends. The people that they choose get to have the money. The contradiction. At a Mamdani event, I think it was last weekend, you had all of these people chanting, "Tax the rich." So here you have this rich, spoiled brat of a guy who's never achieved anything on his own in his whole life. He couldn't even become the social media star he was attempting to do, despite all of the money that his mother handed him so he could make music, rap videos. The guy's a loser. And he is rich, and for doing nothing. His family doesn't need that money. He doesn't need that money. And then you have all of these people chanting, "Tax the rich." Do you know who you're talking to? He is what you claim you hate. He is what he claims is evil. You people are fools. And what is going to happen there is exactly what Victor David Hansen notes happens in every part of the world in which socialists get in charge. The innovative people who actually improve the quality of life for the citizens by way of creating businesses and new technology, they leave. They flee. They get out of there because they're demonized. Do you know what happens to the most innovative people in the world? They become wealthy. And here, what does it say when you've got a guy that just gets elected mayor of New York City and the people are chanting, "Tax them, get them. We need to get them. We need to punish those people." What do you think the innovators are going to do? You think they're going to stick around like, "Oh, yes, all of these people chanting for my head. This sounds like a fantastic place to be. I'm going to keep my family here." This is why areas of the world that are run by socialist, communists, always end up in squalor, always end up in extreme poverty, except for the people who are in charge. And the useful idiots that put these people in power are just that. They are useful idiots. They are useful to the rich and the wealthy who are elitist in power. But nobody else gets to have that. No one. And it happens over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter how often it happens. All it takes is some snake oil salesman to come along and to be like, "Hey, everyone, free busing, and I'm going to do this and that." And they're like, "Yay, promise us candy." Those voters are no different than a naive child who is told, "Get in my van and you're going to get some free candy." They are told something that is absolutely absurd, but because of their childlike ignorance, have no recognition about what they're being drawn into. Unfortunately, see, what happens when you have socialists in charge of autonomous countries, they don't have a larger entity to bail them out. That's why the Soviet Union collapses. That's why Cuba, for the longest time, the Soviet Union tried to keep Cuba propped it up, but eventually they, they cut Castro off, and unless he got rid of, what's his name? It escapes me. But anyhow, point being is they other than just a few examples, you have Venezuela, they go socialists, they're collapsing on themselves. I mean, we just see this happen over and over again. But when you get a socialist in charge of someplace like New York City, well, they can rely on the state to bail them out. then they can rely on the federal government to bail them out. And so they end up surviving off what they claim is evil, and that is capitalism. That is freedom. We would be much better off in this country if we operated in the way originally intended, and that is, New York, you want to have a bunch of left-wing socialist people, that's fine, but you will die on that. You do your thing, and we'll do ours. Unfortunately, with people who have the same common ideology, once they get into power on a larger level and they can redistribute your wealth, your money, it helps give them a lifeline. It bails them out. Obamacare is a perfect example of it. Here the left creates a socialist program that is failing, and so what do they have to do? They have to get your money in order to subsidize it, your money in order to make sure that, you know, it can stay on some sort of artificial lifeline. And ultimately, who suffers? The people. Oh, but the promises are grand. Oh, the promises are wonderful. Jump over to traffic. Springfield's Talk 1041. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. If you want the best, I know I say that quite often, but it's true, and you can read reviews from so many other people in the area that have utilized her for home buying, home selling. One of my life lessons that I learned some time ago, and I don't know if it was actually taught to me or I just stumbled upon it, but you don't have to be an expert in areas in which you have friends that are experts in those areas. And when you are looking to sell your home, oftentimes you will get an offer, but it's contingent upon having some termite damage fixed, or maybe your driveway is off kilter and they want that plus some foundational work done. But you don't really know who's good. Yeah, you know these services are out there. You hear about them. You see ads. And then you go on social media and does anybody know a person that can do this? And then you have 80 different random things thrown at you. And all of a sudden you realize, well, I'm not in any better position than I was before. See, Emily Johnson works with these people daily. And she works with them because she is in the business of helping people buy and sell homes. And so she has had the ability over time and all the volume of folks that she's worked with to figure out who does the best and who does it at the most affordable. And she is able to get that information to you. And you'll see in some of the reviews, she even sets some of that stuff up for folks. That's what you get with Emily Johnson. Now, you can get someone that just shows up at a house and lets you in, and that's all you need, or somebody that just brings people by your house if you're trying to sell it. But if you want the absolute best, firing on all cylinders, doing everything she can in order to help you sell your home or find you buy that help you find that perfect home to buy, Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. All right, a couple of bits on the government shutdown. There is this belief that the Democrats have been waiting for these elections to get over in order to go ahead and vote to allow the government to open. Because they were afraid if they open the government, then their left-wing base would be frustrated and not turn out, and that might diminish their wins in these states that are already Democrat win states. But they wanted to win by wide margins. And while I believe that there is some truth to that, I also know that Democrats are kind of emotionally driven people. And what could at the same time happen is, wait a minute, this shutdown's not hurting us because we won these. And so maybe we should just stick with it. I suspect Democrats that are elected that have to run in the midterms in states that aren't extreme left-wing states like New Jersey and New York are probably going to say, no, that doesn't sound like a very good plan for us. That may work in a city and a state where people vote for anti-Semitic socialists, but in the Midwest, not so much. The president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association has urged the Senate Democrats to end the Schumer shutdown, as have, of course, an increasing number of people who are representatives of those that are impacted negatively by this shutdown. So we will see. There are, of course, a combination of events that have occurred and that are going to be upcoming. One is the travel holiday season, and as it's been noted, this is one that is going to, in a very frustrating manner, probably have a real negative impact on a lot of people's travel plans. So the window of Democrats getting through these elections without ticking off the left-wing base, and this upcoming travel season is a window of time in which many people believe that the more moderate Democrats are going to say, okay, now's the time we have to allow the government to open. We have to stop this constant shutting down of the government, which 14 times now Republicans have voted to open it, and 14 times now Democrats have blocked it, so we shall see. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. All right, everyone. Let's see. All right, upcoming hour. I'm gonna, a couple of different things, obviously, but one of the things we're going to talk about is, this almost sounds boring to say, how you can get involved. So here's the thing. There are a couple of districts that the Republicans are looking for some good candidates to run. And one of the hindrances to non-politicians running for office is that they don't know where to start. And even those that are like, well, I'll figure it out, don't necessarily know the ropes. And so they may be great they may be great people that would be great elected officials, but they're not good candidates because they don't know how those things work. And so there's going to be upcoming instruction on that. We're going to talk about this in the upcoming hour with a couple of people that are involved with it. That is, I think, going to be real beneficial for maybe some of you who have thought about running or know people, but you're like, I don't even know how that works, how it starts. I'm not part of all of that. So we're going to talk about that in the upcoming hour. Springfield's Talk 104.1. Hello, welcome everyone. My name's Nick Reed. I got a text there from Luke Davis earlier.
Oh, yeah?
Yes,
What did he say?
Luke said. Now, okay, for back up to give context to people here, Luke and his wife Heather own Vineyard Market, which is where we are going to debut the newest happy hour this Friday, 4 to 6. And he was in here with us yesterday, and we were talking just about the venue itself and its inception and evolution and our upcoming happy hour and how that bridge eastbound, anyhow, has been closed off for construction and how, that's not exactly the most convenient thing. Well, anyway, so this morning you got a press release. This was in the 6 o'clock hour. MoDOT announcing that had been opened up. We're like, that's awesome. So at 7:24, Luke texted, "Hey, man, MoDOT must have been listening yesterday. The CC65 bridge is open."
Yep.
And I said, we just talked about that.
They did. They rushed it. It opened, I think, 11:30 yesterday.
Obviously, the influence that we have is well beyond even what I understood it to be.
That's right.
Anybody else need any roads open?
Well, I did also get another one that 5th Street is now closed in Miller. So one opens, one closes.
Fifth, clearly the same impact.
Yes. It's on Missouri Route 39. So, I mean, that might be just the main drag there.
Well, it could be. Yes. I'm not familiar enough with Miller. Somewhat, but not enough to know traffic patterns and what massive delays that
right.
could
So
cause.
watch out, everybody in Miller.
5th Street. 5th Street, you said?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, stay clear of that for those who already haven't found yourself an hour and a half late to work because of those closures there. I'm not making fun. I'm really not.
No.
Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get news and we'll get traffic. And then I mentioned before the top of the hour that there is a need for some good candidates to run for office here in the area. And oftentimes there are a lot of people that would make great elected officials, and maybe you've thought about it, but you don't even have any clue how to start. Like, have no idea. And at the same time, it can be intimidating. It's like being the, new kid first day in school, and you just feel overwhelmed. Like, people are going to think, "Who are you? You don't belong here." And so we're gonna talk a little bit about how it is that you can do that, and just give you information what that looks like. So you might think, "Oh, you know what? I think I want to be involved in this after all." So we'll have that opportunity for you here in just a couple of moments. Right now, latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 70. Tonight clear with a low around 45. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 68. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 70.
All right. A lot of people will reach out and say, we want to get involved. How can we get involved? And I believe for a lot of folks, there is this almost self-imposed limitation regarding what that involvement means, and it never crosses some people's minds that maybe involved would be running for office yourself. And oftentimes it's because people don't have any clue what that looks like. And what does that mean? Like, I'm not equipped to do that. I have no idea. I'm not part of that crew. And there's an effort that is, I guess, just developing or has developed right here in the area to, I guess, help people overcome that. And Noah Snelson is with us, and this is something that you're active in, trying to help get some people. I mean, I guess it's sort of kind of a recruitment, but more so informational, I guess. How would you describe it?
Yeah.
I'll just let you do that.
Perfect. So let me give you a little bit of feedback of who I am and then what the purpose of this is. So my name is Noah Snelson. I've been involved in Republican politics in Greene County for some time. I'm an active member of the Greene County Republican Central Committee. Been a member of the MRA. I was the vice president here in Greene County. Pachyderms, Young Republicans. I was a candidate for city council. So I've been there. I've done all of those things. And this project is a brainstorm of Congressman Eric Burleson and I. We're talking, and we also have Alex Riley, Representative Alex Riley, assisting us with this.
Okay.
And the idea is we have a lot of people who get interested in wanting to run for office, and they just don't know where to start. They don't know, what do I do? Where do I go? How does that progress? I've been there. I was a kid when I ran for Springfield City Council. Now this was, I'm going to make a reference here for kids. 6 or 7 years ago. Right. But 6 or 7 years ago, when I ran for office, I didn't know where to start. I went to the Republicans, and they don't get involved. I didn't know they don't get involved in nonpartisan races. There's no such thing as a nonpartisan race, by the way, everybody out there.
You know who benefits from that locally are left-wingers.
100%. I cannot emphasize that enough.
Yeah.
And so it was a struggle. I look back on my campaign personally and think, I realized I did everything correctly. I did everything I was supposed to do. I just didn't know why I was supposed to do this, that, or the other. And so what I've done is I'm heading a group called 417 Conservative Action Network. And here in a few weeks, it'll be Monday, November 24th. From 5:30 to 6, it might go a little bit longer. We're just going to have an informational meeting for people who may want to run for office. Now, this is, and I want to emphasize this is not to usurp anybody currently serving.
Right.
It's not to primary anybody. This is to help us build a bench of candidates, of people that we know who are interested, who might be thinking, hey, I'd like to do this, that we have no clue about, because not everybody reaches out to the Republicans. Not everybody reaches out to their elected officials. There's people listening right now who have pondered this, that are thinking about it, that they were like me. They didn't know where to start. And then what we don't want to have happen is people like myself jump in feet first and fail or hit that buzzsaw.
Right. There are just so many benefits to knowing just the basic rules, and even once you know them, you and I were talking off air that I once upon a time went to something that was similar in fashion, not for myself, but I was accompanying someone, and it wasn't around here, but it was more like really in the nitty gritty of inside stuff, data. If you're going to run against an incumbent, then you have to raise this much more money than that, and really broke things down. And I learned a lot of great information, including the guy who was putting this on. He said, if you're running for the first time, run as if you know that this is almost like a practice run, and just have that attitude and mindset. And there's just so many different things that I've never run myself, but a lot of times also one of the traps I've seen people fall in, and I had somebody tell me once, I remember you saying this, and you were right, because it happened to me, that everyone that they talk to says, everyone I know is going to vote for you. This first, like when you run for the first time, everyone I talk to says they're going to vote for you. And so they think man, this is easy. I'm gonna, and overwhelmingly, and so maybe they don't go to door to door 8 different times. Maybe they don't pick up the phone and they're raising money in order to buy ads. Well, what they don't realize is how many people do you actually talk to?
Right.
The people, first off, that know you, that you go to church with, that you work with. And, well, yeah, of course, those people, well, what percentage of the actual voting base is that? And you start looking at it, and then those people are shocked when they get 12% of the vote.
Right.
It's a real wake-up call. But if you know this stuff ahead of time, you can really get a head start, I think, on it. And now I know you're talking probably more about signatures and Secretary of State stuff and all of that in terms of like what you have to do in order to really get on the ballot technically.
Yeah, and let me kind of go over the scope of what we're looking for at the moment. Really, this is for all of Southwest Missouri, but specifically we're looking in Greene County at the moment.
Okay.
There are a lot of seats that people don't typically think of as, hey, we don't have any Republicans or conservative voices, or at least a majority in those areas. I certainly can think of right now the Springfield City Council is one of those places, the Springfield School Board, and these are where
But they're nonpartisan.
Of course, they're nonpartisan.
Both of them.
I was listening to your segment earlier where you're talking about, the mayor in New York being elected, and and I've watched all the TikTok videos of these people that are, these influencers are going talking to the average everyday citizen who are voting for Zoran because, well, he just sounds great, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's you have to understand that person is now the mayor of New York City, and they're going to suffer the consequences. There are consequences of those actions, and so local politics are extremely important. But this isn't just for those seats. This is for things like state rep. This is for maybe some of our county seats when they become open. And what we're looking for when we talk to candidates. Again, these folks typically they have maybe a concept or an idea of where they need to start, but they don't know all the ins and outs. What is the time requirement? Right. What am I going to need to do? And what we're looking for are people who they want to make a difference, because it's high risk, high reward. I mean, you're spending a lot of time, you're spending a lot of effort, and it's devastating if you put all that time in and you lose.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like when I ran for city council, I used to be a police officer. I wanted to make a difference with the crime problem in Springfield, and that was my purpose in doing it. So there are people out there that are going to find something that they're driven to do, and they want to make a difference in their community, and this is where that's at. But you have to know it is a time commitment. There are requirements that have to happen. There are certain expectations when you get there of what that's going to be, whether what your scope of government. I certainly running for city council, realizing that 99% is nonpartisan in that official position. You don't really create policy. I get that. It's a lot of boring stuff, but maybe those candidates don't know where to go with that. So this informational meeting is just so we can gauge people's interest who might be interested and have those longer in-depth conversations of where they can do that. And so we have a Facebook page. It is 417 Conservative Action Network. My number is there for this event. Again, it's going to be Monday, November 24th from 5:30 to 6. You have to RSVP. We'll give you out details about where the location is. And we had talked offline. Possibly you'll have that on your website, and certainly a podcast so people can go back and listen to that. So
yeah, and if people that maybe just hearing the latter end, like, oh, I need to go back and listen to podcasts, of course we encourage that. But of course we're going to be doing the Great Escape show from Cancun next week, but the following week, I know we've got you scheduled a couple more times in different time slots to hit different audience. That way we make sure as many people as possible are familiar with it. Now, I know you're talking about this is anyone that may be interested in any time running. Are there some areas in which there are sort of just like open and there's nobody there in case somebody may be listening like, oh, wait, I live in that district?
Yeah, certainly, and let me emphasize, this is for conservatives,
right?
And so those are the folks that we're specifically targeting, and other Republicans. But yeah, there are certainly opportunities right now. Obviously, the filing time period for municipal offices that'll start up here next month, and then the elections in April. But for our state offices in the springtime's actually when they go file it. So right now you're seeing a multitude of candidates that are making they're announcing, they're moving forward. But currently, we do have a couple districts. Melanie Stennett's district, previously, I know there's been talks with some folks there who might be wanting to run. So if Melanie Stennett was your state representative and you're interested in this, that this is an opportunity. The same thing with Stephanie Hines District, both in Springfield. So this is both the eastern and southern parts of Springfield. Again, we're talking with some folks who may be interested, but nobody's made official announcements yet. So again, opportunities in both of those seats.
Well, and primaries. I mean, this is, just because somebody says, or, if you're interested and you're like, oh, well, somebody's already looking at it. Well, that doesn't mean you don't. That doesn't mean that you can't also do it if you want to.
Yeah, and certainly what we don't want to do is run somebody for the sake of running somebody, right?
Right, yeah,
but
absolutely.
We had a situation last election cycle where we had somebody who'd made an announcement, they moved forward with it, and last minute there was some life situations that popped up and they weren't able to run. And that's completely understandable. But we need to make sure that we have folks that are ready to go.
And they get it. They know what's involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can meet that expectation, and then we're not scrambling last second trying to find somebody that might be interested to run it. What we certainly don't want is to hand Democrats seats for the sake of handing them seats, especially here in Springfield where it's very competitive.
Yeah. All right, so the Facebook page again?
So it's going to be 417 Conservative Action Network. You can also reach me by phone at 417-597-3227.
All right. I cover it?
I think so.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, like I said, we will talk to you again, not next week, but the following week. And thanks for coming in. Appreciate it, Noah.
Oh, I appreciate you, Nick.
All right. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. All right, everyone. Let's see. What was that Facebook page again? Monty. Had him say it like twice. I don't remember. Sarah is... Oh, here we go. Sarah.
I've got it for you. It is 417 Conservative Action Network. And I have that up at ksgf.com in your must-read headlines and also linked in your podcast section as well.
Monty will be one of our first-timers
know.
joining us on The
It'll
Great
be
Escape.
so
He and
much
his wife.
fun.
Yes, I'm sure that he will. Perhaps we will talk him into running while we're there.
Yeah.
Get a few Mai Tais in him and... like, oh, you could be king of the world, Monty. Do it. Like, yeah, it's a good idea. All right, yep. So there you have it. We did get another text in. And let's see, where did it go? I don't know where it went. How did that disappear? Oh, wait, here we go. This is I'm reading this simply because it's self-congratulatory. Fell across your show 6 months ago, living in South Hill, Washington. Love the show. So there you go. So I said, yeah, I was like, hey, that's awesome. How'd you find us? And he said, random search on iHeart, and I have some ties to Springfield. So, yeah, awesome. People sometimes very generously ask, like, are you guys ever going to become like syndicated? You know what? I guess we kind of are.
A little bit.
Yeah, I know we get text messages from Florida, from now Washington, Texas, a number of places. And obviously the vast majority of people who listen don't actually text in. And so I'd like to think, I don't know exactly how thick the spread is, but we do have our tentacles out there.
I do like to look at your podcast stats every once in a while. And did you know that behind the United States, you are listed as Brazil as well? People listen from Brazil.
Now that one,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting.
Ireland and India too.
Okay.
So all over the place.
Yeah, clearly there are huge followers and those countries.
Actually, you have quite a few downloads from Brazil.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know.
Are they different folks? Can you tell that, or is it like one person?
It just says
Just
the
says how
amount
many
of
downloads. Huh.
Yeah. Interesting.
Hmm.
And Virginia,
Okay.
which is interesting because I thought Wisconsin would be up there.
It's not.
No, Virginia's number 2, Kansas, Illinois, Washington, and then Wisconsin.
Okay. Well, we love you all.
Yeah, so you're all over the place.
We love you all. Love having you. So as far as I'm concerned, that's just as good. We're worldwide, broadcasting all over the world, almost in every continent. What, 3? I guess.
Oh, well, actually, you
4?
have a lot more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Those are just the top ones that I read.
I would just, I really want to spend the rest of the show talking about this. Someone said Facebook not bringing up the page. So did you check the page itself?
Yes, I did, and I linked it.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Perfect. There we go. Very good. We do have happy hour coming up Friday, and it is a brand new location. We're very excited. I'm excited for a couple of reasons. One, which, by the way, Retro Metro had 3 years. I could not believe that. 3 years we had been doing happy hour there and lunch bunch there, and I just wow, that's crazy, and it's tiny, and just everyone there is totally awesome, fantastic place, and every so often you just freshen things up. Everybody does, and Vineyard Market I just really love. It is a gem. It is unlike any other place for a number of different reasons that are in the area, and 2 of my friends own it. Luke and Heather Davis, and many of you know Luke Davis from his time having a show on the weekends here, which was Tech Talk. And of course, he and Heather had Davis Cellulars all over the place, and they would end up selling those off, and kind of trying out a few different things. They're entrepreneurial by spirit, and they're totally awesome. And several years ago, how many years did he say? 6? Or I forget. I asked him this question yesterday on the show, but I forgot the answer. This is how good of a friend I am. They decided to open up this Vineyard Market, which initially was really going to focus on wines. And still, that is if you've been there, it is the place to really learn about wines. They don't mark them up, which I thought was an incredible thing. So even if you want to buy a bottle or otherwise, they don't mark those costs up. But they have a walk-in humidor. They have a smoking lounge with a advanced technological air filtration system that every 9 minutes completely filters out every bit of air in there and pumps in clean air. They have outdoor seating, a lot of times live music, and then they do food as well. Initially, there was no plan for any food, but that has evolved. It's just been an evolving thing, and it's a great place. So I love it, but also because they're friends of mine, and I love them dearly, and so to be able to have happy hour there is going to be great. So this will be our first one there, and every place we've ever done them. Of course, the setup's a bit different, and this will be our first time. So what I would really appreciate if those of you who do come afterwards, if you have any feedback about, oh, we loved this part was awesome, or hey, I wonder if we could do this differently. I know they want that feedback as well, because this will be a first go at that particular venue, and the setup's a bit different than some of the other venues, and we're just gonna play it by ear and really have a good time and enjoy one another's company. So that would be Vineyard Market in Ozark. Details at ksgf.com, and come and go as you please this Friday from 4 to 6. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 70. Tonight clear with a low around 45. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 68. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 70. And the Pyramid Roofing Company, if you have storm damage from storms that rolled through the listening area earlier this year, it's not too late to file a claim, and it's not too late for a new roof installation. Now, there is this common misconception that the fall and winter months, they're just not good times for a new roof, and that is not entirely true. The cooler weather, it can actually cause less wear and tear on shingles during install, and you can also experience shorter wait times and sometimes even some deals and discounts. So if you have storm damage, you don't have to wait until spring. Just reach out to Josh today. He can come out, he'll do a free roof inspection for you, and then get you on the books so your roof is ready for the winter months. Now you can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
I'm looking at, Zoran Mamdani, he's speaking last night, I guess his victory speech, and he's standing behind a podium with a sign that says Zoran on it, and it's like purple and gold, and it just looks to me like the logo above an 80s video arcade or something. You know what?
Yes.
It just has or like an Aladdin's castle sort of feel to it. Anyway.
He's going for that real royalty feel, isn't he?
I love how even Mamdani, of course, he says what he has to get elected. He's like, well, I'm a socialist, not a communist. I remember back whenever Democrats used to say, I'm a Democrat, not a socialist. And now they're shifting to, I'm a socialist, not a communist. I don't know what it is that once they acknowledge their full totalitarian communist desires, I'm a communist, I don't know where they'll go from there. Maybe they'll just be like, we're here. You were right. All along. I want to play this audio. I have not heard the audio yet, but I wanted to play it because of what the article surrounding it sounds as if. Scott Jennings on CNN last night was warning those gloating about the Democrat victory. Now, I was talking and seeing these headlines, pivotal races, Democrats win big. There was no winning big. This is New York. Every one of these states the Democrats won in last night were states Kamala Harris won in the presidential race. So this isn't a signal of any sort of change whatsoever in the context of what does this mean for Republicans across the country? What does this mean for Donald Trump? It means nothing. That isn't to say that there aren't landscape changes that have been occurring, but none of that is reflected in these results. And I said that the real reflected change here that's indicated is the extremism of the Democrat Party. A Democrat Party in the so-called autopsy of what went wrong across the country was the fact that they were focusing too much on extreme left candidates and issues. And that's what this race did. With the election of some of these Democrats. These are the most extreme of the extreme Democrats. So this, to me, this election doesn't spell trouble for Republicans. It spells trouble for Democrats. And here is Scott Jennings last night during CNN coverage of the election results.
I think I just want to offer condolences to Chuck Schumer. Honestly, what I'm reading here in New York City is that AOC is going to be the next senator from New York after she gets done whooping his rear end in the 2028 Democratic primary. And for his Senate races in 2026, I see the energy in the Democratic Party tonight behind a socialist, and I see the energy in Virginia, Democrats looking the other way on a violent candidate for attorney general who says he wants to murder Republicans and their children. If you think you're getting rid of Graham Plattner in Maine now, think again. This is a terrible night for national Democratic image, given what is happening inside their party. Mamdani is an avowed socialist. It's not what people say that he is. It's what he says that he is. He's now the leader of their party. That's their energy. And Chuck Schumer's
He's the leader of the Democratic Party.
There is no. Who is the leader? Can someone tell me?
He's a life raft for Republicans who have to go on TV and.
You own this, man.
Yeah, and they know it right now. This is why they try, and I've heard this on a number of occasions, mock the idea. Well, I mean, he's not the leader of the Democrat Party. And while one may argue that that the Democrat Party right now is leaderless in terms of meaningful action and control over the messaging and direction of the party, Scott Jennings poses a great question. If not him, then who? Who is the leader? And while Mamdani may not necessarily be the leader in the context of, like I said, the direction and execution of Democrat direction, because I don't think this is a civil war that is still battling within public perception with voters. Right now, who is the top? I'm telling you, what name will be talked about the most today and over the next couple of days in the context of Democrat victories? It will be Mamdani. You cannot have that sort of overwhelming presence, but then expect voters to believe, oh, but that's not a representation of who the Democrat Party is nationally speaking. That's just New York. Don't worry about that. That's not. And in fact, what you even hear some Democrats in flyover country saying is, well, he's not actually. Everyone knows he can't actually do the things that he wants to do. He just says those things. They're trying to distance themselves from what they know he actually is, because they recognize, okay, fine, he's popular in New York, what has increasingly become a hellhole and is intent on digging itself even deeper, that is not something that is good for the Democrat Party in terms of how people view the Democrat Party across this country. And they want to have it both ways. They want to tout this as some tremendous victory for the Democrat Party that is a signal of what is to come nationwide. But then when people point out, so Mamdani, you're saying, is a signal of what is to come. Well, no, that's not what we're saying. He's not a representative. Well, which is it? You got to pick one or the other. Can't have both. Can't have neither. Scott Jennings absolutely 100% accurate in his assessment there. Edson, I like that name. What a classy name. Posted a 5-star review about his experience with the service department at Pinnaker Honda. Great experience servicing my vehicle. Routine maintenance, oil change. Big thanks to Devin for the amazing customer service experience. Very knowledgeable, very professional. Everyone is so professional and nice. Will be coming back. I will be coming back. I have a Honda Ridgeline 17 HRV 16. I take both vehicles here and see Devin. Best dealership and service department in all of town. Best dealership experience. Just got a windshield replaced, and it was done so fast and overall efficiently. Thank you, Pinnaker Honda. And part of that Pinnaker advantage, if you purchase a vehicle at Pinnaker Honda, then you're going to get 20% off those oil changes, and I think the tire rotations are part of that as well for the rest of the vehicle's life. It's just part of that Pinnaker advantage that they offer, in addition to the customer service experience that you heard there from Edson. Pinnaker Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. You can also find them under Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. Scott Jennings, in that clip I played from CNN, in which he was trying to explain to the Democrats that this is a bad night for you all, not for Republicans, because this is a demonstration that the Democrat Party is heading in further into the direction that causes you to lose national elections. And he made the reference about, if you think you're getting rid of Graham Plattner now, you might as well forget it. Graham Plattner is the Democrat that is running in a primary in Maine, wanting to take on Susan Collins, that the Democrats have labeled as one of their new favorite guys, who has an actual Nazi tattoo, or he did. I think he tried to get it covered up. Not a tattoo that looked like a Nazi tattoo, not a tattoo that mistakenly or deceptively was presented as a Nazi tattoo. But Ignat, yeah, it's a Nazi tattoo, but his excuse was, well, I was drunk. Apparently drunk for years and years and years, because that's how long he kept it before he claimed he had no idea it was a Nazi tattoo. He has also said a number of other just absurd things, including, this is one of my favorites, complaining online about the fact that black people never tip, and rhetorically asking, what is with you people? Why is that? And hilariously not backing off of that one, instead doubling down and claiming that it was just a serious, legitimate question. He just really doesn't understand black people and why they don't tip. Now, the thing of it is, he is in a primary, a Democrat primary. He is running against the popular incumbent Democrat. After all of this information was revealed, his popularity went up with Democrats. Up. And so a party that already has developed, because of its own behavior, the reputation of being anti-Semitic, now has increased its support amongst voters of a candidate who admittedly acknowledged that he voluntarily got a Nazi tattoo. And Scott Jennings is saying, these results, the Democrats electing in New York an anti-Semitic socialist, an attorney general in Virginia who has talked about fantasizing about murdering his political opposition and their children, not to mention a new governor, the Spanberger of Virginia, who is against girls being protected in sports in the locker room. And you think that those are signals that you are somehow going to get rid of this Nazi tattoo-wearing nut job out of your party? You're wrong. This is going to make him stronger. And for a lot of people, emotionally, it is aggravating and frustrating to watch Democrats celebrate this as if it's some great victory. And I'm telling you, there is a misread on this thing. Now, I don't want anyone to misunderstand. That is not, again, some sort of suggestion that Republicans are going to have a landslide. They're going to keep the House and pick up seats, because Republicans have their own issues, without question, in terms of their base and the Trump supporter, and a misreading of things on the end of the Republican Party is believing that a Trump supporter is always a Republican supporter, and that is not the case. I think there is a misunderstanding there as well. So both parties have their problems. The difference is the problems that the Democrats have is the fact that their party is increasingly moving towards socialism, anti-Semitism, and violence. And in many instances, it's actually there, as we saw from last night's elections. And if Democrats think that that is a good celebratory signal for them as a party across this nation, I think they're sadly mistaken. And if they are right, then we are all in serious trouble in this country, especially Jewish people and Christians and, well, just normal people who believe boys are boys and girls should be protected from men who are predators. We'll see as time goes on. You never know. There has been new information revealed regarding James Comey that does not look good for James Comey. And ultimately, what it is there's evidence from his own handwritten notes that have been revealed showing that testimony that he had given before Congress is inconsistent with what it was he was actually doing and claiming based off his own handwritten notes, which these are part of the charges that he's facing. John Solomon of Just the News, he does a quick recap of these revelations as Just the News wrote up a story on it last night, so I want to play him next. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company text line noting Anne Virginia elected a Muslim woman for lieutenant governor. Now, I think actually what is more significant about that lieutenant governor race is that they voted against a homosexual. A homosexual man was the Republican running for lieutenant governor in Virginia. So here's a couple of things that we do know was rejected by Democrats in these Democrat states. They voted against a homosexual, and they voted against an immigrant woman of color, that being Sears, the current lieutenant governor of Virginia, and instead went with the Obama-backed white privileged woman, Spamberger, in Virginia. Now, I wonder if the media is going to do any sort of reflection on what it says about these two, quote, minority candidates being rejected by Democrats. A homosexual and a minority immigrant, both told, no thanks, we don't need you. So much for that progressive desire to lift up those as allies of these communities, right? You see how full of crap those people are? They're only interested in those categories of people when they are compliant and act as tools for the Democrat cause. Otherwise, no interest in you whatsoever. John Solomon giving a brief report here on some of the revelations in the investigation and charges against James Comey regarding, among other things, charges that he lied to Congress regarding, much to do with the investigation of Donald Trump and the Hillary Clinton stuff. And here is John Solomon last night with that report.
We've been following the story of James Comey. He's indicted for lying to Congress, saying he never authorized any of his staff to leak to the media. And late last week, as we told you, he played the victim card. I'm being maliciously prosecuted because Donald Trump hates me. Well, today, the Kash Patel FBI and the lead attorney prosecuting his case, Lindsay Halligan, well, they responded, and they responded with a lot of evidence. What did they respond with? James Comey's own emails and his own handwritten notes. And what do they show? They show that James Comey was clearly aware that his top aide was providing information anonymously to the news media. Not only was he aware of it, he wrote in a private email, "Good job, my friend," actually congratulating him when Dan Richmond, one of his top lieutenants, told him what he had just done with the New York Times. Yes, just like the indictment said, the story is about Hillary Clinton's email, so it backs up the government's case that Comey was authorizing leaks to through his staff to reporters concerning a Hillary Clinton case, just like they argued. But they went a little bit further. It turns out that when Kash Patel found those burn bags in that secret room where a whole bunch of FBI evidence was sitting, they found something special, some handwritten notes by James Comey. What do those handwritten notes show? He appeared to be aware in September 2016 that of the U.S. intelligence intercept that Hillary Clinton had approved a plan to hang a fake Russian shingle on Donald Trump's house, campaign house. Now, that's important because the handwritten notes don't match with James Comey's testimony. James Comey told Congress, that doesn't sound familiar. I don't think I ever knew about that. He wrote about it in his handwritten notes. And finally, one will ask, well, why would James Comey do this? What was the motive? Today's emails that were just released in the court filing give us one other answer. He wrote to Dan Richmond, his lieutenant, that he fully expected soon to be working for President-elect Hillary Clinton. That's right from the emails. So he was waiting to work for Hillary Clinton, and he thought that Hillary Clinton would be grateful for the way he did things in handling her email case.
Isn't that kind of even gross? Like, the incoming queen, she's going to be so grateful for the things I've done for her. This is pretty damning information. I don't know if ever, whether it's as an adult or as a kid, you were dishonest about something and you learn that people learned the truth, and you can, well, not everyone's this way perhaps, but I can't remember a specific instance. It was yesterday. No, I'm kidding. But, like your face kind of gets hot and you just like, oh my gosh, it's unavoidable. I'm totally exposed. And I wonder if James Comey feels that way when it is revealed that the things he told Congress about no, I didn't know anything about this. Not only in his handwritten notes and text messages, we've learned, did he know about it, but he was congratulating his leaker, his buddy, for leaking it and being successful at these things that he testified before Congress that he never did. Or the fact that he thought that Queen Hillary, once she becomes president, will be pleased with the work that he has done. Does he have that hot face moment of thinking just like this humiliation and recognition that it's all exposed? And I don't know, because I don't know if people like him, if that is something that affects them. And I mean that genuinely. I think people who instinctually understand that lying is wrong, that being deceitful is wrong, that being corrupt is wrong, might at times, because we are human beings still, you're dishonest at this, or you do something that maybe isn't ethical, and you know it. Like, you know that, and so if it gets revealed, first off, you're already maybe trying to justify it, or you're feeling guilty about it, you're laying awake at night. But if it gets revealed because like now what you knew was wrong, everyone else sees. I don't know if people like James Comey have that thing. I don't know if they're so untethered from what is right and wrong, what is moral and immoral, if it bothers them in the least. Or if this is to them just another thing that the, quote, enemy is using against them, and that's all that matters. And so it's just, fight another day with no shame or embarrassment whatsoever. I don't know. But I know in terms of the truth, certainly not good for Comey. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday. Glenn Beck's coming up next.